So, thank you very everyone for joining. We are here in the Kickoff workshop. I'm Christoph Gomez. I'm the founder of Solvee. I'll talk a little bit more about what Solvee is and what Solvee does. But here, this is the Kickoff workshop for the partnership with Gildre, and I'm super excited to share how Solvee works, what Solvee does, and how you can leverage this to your advantage as founders and partners of Gildre or members of Gildre. And with that, maybe Brian, you want to take over, explain a little bit about the
Yeah,
partnership.
yeah. I'm excited. So thank you all for hopping on. This is something that we've been working with Chris for really the past feels like 6 months now, as I know. But I know you've also been in Gilded for quite some time, longer than that too. And the biggest thing for context, and note that this will be recorded, so we'll also kind of share some notes out afterwards for those that are on the call and not able to make it. But the context was that we knew for Gilder, there were always three pieces when it comes to, whether it's a startup accelerator, communities, incubators, all these things. We knew that the connection element was something that, you can do very much through, myself, Tyga, Eliana, Michael, our team, and everyone else meeting each other proactively. The second piece was the education element of like, hey, like how can we put together events and speakers and everything else, communication through Circle. But the third one that we really were looking to tackle was that accountability piece. And that was the toughest one, I think, where we realized there's a lot that, from our time working at the accelerator, we worked with over 180 founders each month. And it's a 6-month program. Run that out over 2 years or over a year, right? That's over 2,000 founders. And we knew that with Gilder off of day one, 3 years ago, that we wanted everything to be very hands-on, very personalized. And we're lucky that at our stage, even with 250 founders in the group, that we generally know where everyone's at, what they're building, and what those problems are. But we knew that at scale and to really get into it deeper, we needed something else to be able to help do that. And enter Chris's kind of story, which he'll also share from his time at a separate accelerator out. I believe it was in Spain, or at least
No, it's a British.
British is okay. Sounds good. So he'll tell you his story very briefly on that. But the biggest thing he noticed was somewhat similar. And the thing we wanted to address was now how do we build something and include that in membership and as part of the value to be able to give everyone access to that self accountability, but give us access to help with that, right? Not just build in the silo, but now we have those three pillars of connection, education, and accountability through that piece. So hence now we're finally longstanding getting this kicked off and excited to share more. So any questions as you have, we're going to kind of do some live examples. So as people, I know someone, Ileana, Sandeep, a few people have already had the chance to play around with it. But yeah, Chris, if you want to kind of kick off your story, and then as people have questions, feel free to ask in the chat, raise your hand. We'll make this a live session.
Okay, I keep it short to make sure that we get to the end of the session with everything we had planned on for the workshop. So to summarize my experience in this accelerator was that I was one of many hundreds of founders who were entering this accelerator. I was hoping to enter this accelerator to develop my business and come out a year later with a lot of progress. What ended happening is that there was me in the call with another between 100 and 200 founders, and we were all fighting to get the 5 minutes to get some feedback from the one mentor that was responsible for us. And I think Brian can relate to this from your story, right? That everybody needs you, but you cannot be available for everyone. So that I really felt bad because these coaches seemed really to be very good at their job, but they just didn't have the capacity to help everyone. And what they tried to introduce were different tools, but nothing really worked. And I saw a lot of people for months working on improving a scorecard or creating a website, and they really didn't make progress in their business whatsoever. They were just getting distracted by creating assets or marketing stuff that really didn't move the business forward, which is a pity, right? Because that was not the intent. And I left after 10 months. I just gave up and I said, this is just not helping me at all. But in the meantime, I realized that what we were building with Solvee could actually be this layer between the mentorship and the founder, so that whatever I learned in the session, I also have it in my tool. So I can just work on my business every day with in this case, Solvee. And when I go into the sessions, and this is exactly what we're building also for Gildre, is that in this case, Brian will have the view of where you are at beforehand, so he knows exactly how he will help you in the session. You no longer have to tell him, this is what I did, this is where I'm stuck, because most of the time you don't know what you don't know. So there will be a lot of information that you're missing. And now Solvee and Brian will figure it out with you. And then the mentorship coach sessions will be a lot more efficient.
And everything,
Okay.
of course, as we'll share and we'll go into it, is opt-in. So everything, think about how you interact with your co-pilot, whether you use Claude or ChatGPT and different things. Everything here is ideally stored and memory built within your account, right? Your platform. So a lot of the playbooks that'll help you build, a lot of these guides and things will be specific and builds on that. And you choose what you want, to share to, our team at Gildre, because at the end of the day, everything from that end helps us create better programming, better speakers, really fine tune that relationship. But again, if you just want to use the tool standalone just for yourself, it also does that. So there's a lot of cool ways that we kind of analyzed it. And we're excited to really hear more of that feedback and see the best ways to maximize this tool.
Thank you, Brian, for adding that. Yes. Okay. But I'll step into that with a little bit more detail later, especially when we see the first person testing it out. And hopefully. Okay. If there are any questions so far, feel free to interrupt. Okay. Anytime, just raise your hand. And if I miss it, please someone let me know that I missed it. So let's continue. So the whole idea here is that, and you will see it in the new version of the website that I'm working on. It's all about, it's relatively easy nowadays to get distracted, right? So or maybe we go through the agenda first and then we get a better understanding. Okay. So we will have the agenda is just a couple of questions that I will ask you. Then I'll explain what Solvee is. And then we will do some live exercises with you guys where you can then have also 15 minutes to work on your first experience with Solvee. And then once the 15 minutes are over, you can have some short Q&A. And then we can talk about them later, how to move forward from there. Okay. So maybe first and foremost, before I explain about more of Solvee, and this is very much related. So have you ever pivoted your business before? And feel free to either put it in the chat or raise your voice. Now we are only 8 people. So I think this is much easier if you just raise your voice and tell us a little bit about it. Especially if you know how many months that did cost you in retrospect.
Yeah, I can answer this. I pivoted, I think, like 3 times since I started my company Feed. And it was moving very fast. So luckily I didn't spend more than a couple of weeks on every pivot. But it did take up a significant amount of time. I think overall 6 months I was trying to figure out what my eventual product is going to be.
Thank you, Sandeep. Yeah, you are a very highly experienced founder, right? So you have been in this ecosystem quite a while. So you are probably a great example on someone who already understands how important it is to pivot at the right time. But even then, right? How important is it to you? Maybe question again, how important is it for you and with your experience to pivot at the right time?
And I think I don't know if we're asking Sandeep that.
Yes, yeah, or anyone actually. If anyone has an answer to that I was asking Sandeep. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question once?
How, with your experience, with also working with other founders and being a founder yourself, how important is it for you in retrospect to really know to pivot at the right time?
I think it's extremely important, right? It costs you time. That is the biggest thing you're losing, not pivoting. So being able to pivot quickly and at the right time is probably what best founders do very, very well.
Any more experiences? Thank you, Sandeep, for your feedback. Brian, you had 2. But Amelia, I have experienced minor pivots, realizing that my initial value prop was only a small piece of our. Very good. Yeah? I've never pivoted markets, though we have a live document to track market segments in case a pivot becomes a reality. So, Amelia, tell us a little bit more in person. Explain a bit, if you don't mind, how you feel about it.
Yeah, sure. So my company Nosy is note taking for knowledge. So anytime you are taking notes based on information that you want to learn, that is what we are built for. We are initially going to market in the K-12 education market space. However, Nosy is a tool for absolutely everybody. We've identified probably close to 10 different markets that we could easily go to market in and focus on as an early stage business. But we've done a lot of thinking and decided that if we build for K-12, which is a very difficult market to sell to and build for because of the efficacy requirements, we know we will be building the best product for everybody. And we deeply know that market. That said, we are just going to market right now, and we're paying a lot of attention to where traction happens and that it may not happen in the way that we expect. For example, we also have some minor traction happening in the higher ed market, but we know that we can also have market within or traction within professional markets as well. So we decided to create a spreadsheet that just documents each of these markets and captures probably 12 facets of that market, pieces of information across, so that we can monitor it. And so right now it's like all spidey senses on to pay attention to what's happening and the feedback we're getting, because we know a pivot could be a reality, and that would shift. We're also architecturally building for that kind of flexibility and versatility within our platform. And I think that if we ended up shifting, let's say, to a B2C market instead of an institutional market, we have built our systems to prepare for that. So it would be largely a market shift as opposed to an infrastructure shift.
Yeah, that's great. Great. But here, again, I see you spent a lot of thought and a lot of energy into that idea that the pivot can become reality. And that's something that not a lot of founders do. They just go for one market and they stick to it maybe too long. And then it ends up being very costly, right? Especially if it costs money to build or offer the service and there's no income otherwise. So yes, thank you, Amelia. So here, this is exactly what we try to, this is just one example of what I think too many founders miss out on the opportunity to identify things that especially first-time founders might not know. And we want to help them identify these things as if they had a highly experienced coach or mentor with them at all times, so that these things can be avoided, that someone speaks for something and it ends up costing him the whole business. Anyone else wants to share before we move on to the next point? Okay, then thank you everyone for that openness. So we already heard that a little bit from Amelia. And I think from what Sandeep shared, this is also very similar. There's always many things that look very important or even feels urgent. And it's very difficult for founders to, especially solo founders who have no partner to discuss. And there are a lot of them out there in the world. How do we even prioritize? And even when you have multiple founders, how do you decide on who actually is right, how to move on? And so this is when everything feels urgent, you do a little bit of everything. And then because nothing really is the focus, nothing really ends up compounding. And that ends up costing a lot of time and a lot of money as well. I think a lot of you can relate that every day you open your computer and say, okay, I'm going to get surprised today. Appointments in my agenda. I'm open to reschedule or reprioritize everything. And that type of structure, and we all feel it. Some are better organized than others, but I think everybody suffers from that sooner or later. We want to help founders to have less of that feeling that everything seems urgent at the same time, and therefore creating better focus and therefore better outcomes. So this is the point, right? So nowadays, more than ever, creating a product or a service. Now that service was, you have an idea, you have experience, and you want to offer your consulting service, for example. That is relatively inexpensive and relatively easy to provide. What was more expensive in the past was to create a product that is usable, that people can feel, and actually people will be able to pay for. But there are so many people building right now products that nobody wants. And even if they produce a product that people would want, it's very difficult to build a business around that product, right? It's not just like many people think, just produce a product or develop a product. put a website, make it an offer, or offer the product on my website, and then the business runs itself. That rarely happens. So how do I build a business around the product? That is the big challenge for most founders. So now we have a lot of people getting fired, a lot of people because of AI and whatnot. And we see more founders than ever going to the market with their products, especially because it's so easy with all the apps and AI. So we want to help all these founders who have great ideas to make something out of their idea instead of getting stuck because they don't know how to build a business. So what is Solvee then? Solvee is your personalized accelerator delivered by AI. And what I mean by personalized accelerator is that we use the best frameworks that I found, and we are open to adapt and improve on these frameworks. Depending on where you are, let's say you are working on your positioning. So we use a framework from Adel Danford, for example, for positioning, where we say, this is the best framework to help you build your positioning strategy or positioning statement. And what we mean by that is that you will enter a conversation with Solvee, and Solvee will guide you through this process, and it will do the adaptation of that framework to your business specifically. So you will no longer have to read a book, analyze it, make calculations on how to make that a reality for you. This will be seamless in a conversation with Solvee. So we will have, as you enter Solvee, there are currently 9 different phases from 0 to 8. We will be adding a 10th one, which will be the exit. This is currently not the focus, and not all of these phases are completely developed. So as we are talking right now, we are working on a lot of core functionality. Currently, the first 4 are developed, and we will continue to develop once we see that everything works perfectly, and we will help you build your business from there, further into scaling and investment ready, and further scaling and exit. But this is the overall overview. Each of these phases has multiple steps. So, for example, the positioning steps has more steps. The positioning phase has multiple steps. Messaging phase has multiple steps as well. So overall, it will be 4 to 3 steps. And like I mentioned before, this is open for change in the future. Any questions so far before I continue? Okay. So what do we say by yes, Amelia, please go ahead. You're muted. Hold on.
Okay, found it. Yeah, one quick question. So as I'm communicating in each of these conversations with Solvee, obviously I'm inputting information about my business, and some of that may be proprietary. So I just wanted you to speak to how does that information get stored, and does it train any language model outside of the Solvee ecosystem, or even within the ecosystem? Like, would my information train it and potentially end up benefiting and giving an insight to my competitor?
Thank you for asking, Amelia. That is a very good question, and I'm happy that you mentioned it, because we do not train our model. We don't have a proprietary model. We're just using the latest model out there, like a motor in the car. That's what the machine that powers our Solvee. What we do is we build guidelines to make the engine behave in a certain way. So we build the car around that engine, and that you will so everything that you share with Solvee will stay within that conversation in your own bubble within the Amazon Web Services Bedrock environment. So nothing that you share with them with Solvee will go to the outside world unless you give us access to it in case that you want to have some support or whatever. So that is the idea. What we do track is your user activity, meaning we want to know how can we improve your user experience, and that's how we track how you interact with the app, not the content of what you share. Nevertheless, there is a terms of service. I can share an easy to read and the proper one, so I'm happy to share this later on. It's a very simple document trying to make it in plain English, but this is our highest goal, right? That you feel that your data is safe and no one else is able to use that information for their purposes, for their benefit. This is very important. So I'm open. If anyone else has the question in that regard, please feel free to ask. Okay, good. In any case, please remind me to share the terms of service later on. Okay, so coming back to exactly, Amelia, right? So here it is. So you teach your business to Solvee. That's the goal. Because what happens usually when you talk to ChatGPT or Claude, it will provide you with very eloquent answers most of the time, and it will feel like you're making a lot of progress in no time. But very early, you will notice, okay, I didn't tell him this, and so therefore he didn't know this. So therefore he imagined stuff, and now I'm getting an answer that I cannot really use. And normally the problem is you don't use it, you don't really notice it right away. You only notice it like 2 or 3 weeks later when you say, wait, that was not clear and that was not really what I wanted. And then you start doubting, is the answer from Claude or ChatGPT, whatever, actually helping me, or is it just getting more confusing for me? And that experience, I have it every day because I also use Claude. So that is also a tool that I use a lot because that's what I built Solvee with. And I really love Claude in many regards, but it is constantly correcting itself. I have to correct it and then say, yes, that's true. We want to avoid that experience with Solvee. And we have spent a lot of energy in making sure that whatever you share, it's stored properly and that we identify the gaps as well. So we will make sure that you are aware of what we don't know about your business. And that helps you understand what you can provide further information to Solvee so you can get better answers. Does that make sense? Okay. So that is the whole, okay, great. If everybody thumbs up, fantastic. I'll continue. So our context, as you all know, is the most important thing for an AI. And AI context is currently, you can make the context enormously big, right? But we don't want to trash it with things that are not relevant. We want to make sure that the information you provide is the right information and that we compare results or information that you provide. Is it coherent? Does it match? If not, we make you aware of it. And if it matches, perfect. Then we really see that it starts to compound. And we are much better able to provide you with really good support and mentoring in comparison to what a human mentor, while the human mentor is obviously with a lot of experience, will be able to figure out things due to the intelligence and the human interaction, which obviously is missed here in the AI. The great thing about the AI, it has an incredible memory if done well. So this is where the benefit comes in. And we will be able in the future to connect all sorts of applications that you are currently using on a day-to-day basis, feed that also into the memory, or into the context of the AI, so that it will be able to give you also context of what is happening right now with your business. Let's come to what you get as members of Gildre. So there is an upgrade for everyone who is in Gildre. So for silver members, you will get the phases 0 to 2, but this means the 3 first phases to build your business. This is practically an upgrade version from the free version you will find online on my website. For gold, we have the same. We have an upgrade from, instead of phases 0 to 3, which is what we have in the paid version, you will have phases 0 to 4, which is equivalent of $49, but you will not pay anything, right, as members of Gildre. And the full journey, which is $129 officially at the moment on my website, will also be free of use for all the platinum members. So besides all the benefits you get at Gildre, now on top, you get the free access to the full journey of Solvee. This means not only the journey itself, and maybe I need to mention that as well, it will be all the features that come with the journey, right? Every feature that we will release in the future, if you're platinum, you will get access to all of it, while gold members and silver members will have reduced amount of access to these features.
And then the biggest
questions?
Oh yeah. And so for those of you that have already logged in, right? So now if Christoph is already and his team have matched, mirrored the profiles that we have here. So correct me if I'm wrong too, like everyone should have access now based on these tiers, based on your Gildre membership. And as we said, right, exactly. No additional cost, right? We're kind of covering everything on that as part of it because we know, what these things were and why they were so important. And I think Christoph will go through the platform for those of you that haven't yet created an account, and we'll kind of touch on some key features. But, the biggest thing is that the phases are super helpful because they also, the biggest thing that we saw also working at the accelerator, but also for me as a founder, Tiger Michael, when we've gone through accelerators and other programs with their own companies and startups, is how do you take the actionable steps behind feedback? So it's not just, I'm sure whether you use, Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT, whatever kind of the chat tool you use, is a lot of times you have to continuously prompt to say, all right, like, you gave me some advice, right? But like, build this guide out for me, or like, how do you, what steps do I take? What becomes next? And this is really the big piece of that, where Chris will show. So there's different tools on the side, like a strategic advisor or like insights to financials and tasks that actually help that arm of taking steps to do things about it. And so a lot of that, as you said, between phases 0-2, phases 0-4, it's not just, the education piece and the guides, it's also a lot of those things that come into. So he'll share the best ways to really maximize that. And for us, this becomes something that just like we talk about with Gildre, this is basically that co-pilot arm that's building with you. So it's not something that, necessarily you pop your head in once a month. Ideally, this becomes something that even for me, it's like, hey, you do 15 minutes a week. That the idea is not to have a big ask, but it's something that you build into your routines that becomes very helpful instead of you just having to kind of like go out there and ask ad hoc. But a lot more things in addition to just these phases, as you kind of see, right? There's like the financials dashboard for gold and things like that. So Chris will go into that in deeper depth.
Exactly. So thank you for explaining that as well. So right now we have built the core experience, and we have gotten a lot of feedback from some pilot users from Gildre as well. So we are very thankful for those users, and you will learn a lot. I'm sure there are people with already running businesses who have had a lot of very important insights. They even had to pivot because of them for the best. And so what I wanted to share here is that even when the other stuff is currently in development and will be available hopefully as soon as possible in the next weeks, what I wanted to say is don't wait for those features to be online, because whatever work you can put into the strategic work now, you will not have to do later, and you can benefit from doing the work already. So just a word out there, because if you don't feed the information to Solvee just becomes any other LLM, and you're missing out on the opportunity of using or teaching your mentor about your business. And sometimes the questions, I just come out of the call with Kim, with her business. She's also a Gildre member. And she said, I have to figure out what it costs for my clients if they don't do this and that. Right. And she says, that's something that I didn't think of doing, or what do I do? So sometimes it feels like a little uncomfortable. Or my wife, who had to go out into the world and then ask potential customers about certain things to know what do my potential customers actually want. And doing that step might feel a little bit awkward, but I recommend doing that for sure. Okay, so that is something to take into account, that doing the work is sometimes also means not only just working digitally, but also talking with humans. And that is something that Solvee will very much prompt you to do. So because we touched it, and we will go into the live session right after this, I just want to, Brian mentioned that before. There is a dashboard that Brian has access to. And that dashboard is meant for those people of you who want to opt in, and you are open to share your progress, and you want to get mentorship from Brian in the future if you are in the right subscription level. That access will provide, or that opt-in will provide Brian with possibilities to understand where you are, where you're struggling with, even before the mentoring session starts. And that also will be a very easy way for him to have a synchronization with you, either asynchronously or in the call itself, where you can really don't have to think of, what did I do the last month? What are my current problems? What am I working on? All this information is stored in your Solvee instance, and whatever information you want to share from that with Brian, that will be available to him, so he can prepare for the mentorship sessions as soon as possible.
And just to be clear too, it's also, so it's, if you work with Michael, or if you work with Taiga too, like
yes,
the three of us who do these advisory mentorship will have access to those things. And so, and obviously just us. So as whatever you decide to share through this, whether it's, specific fundraising, pain points, go to market, different things you've been testing, A/B testing on messaging and marketing and branding. That's a lot of the stuff that we'll be able to look at and then preemptively give feedback, in lieu of our next chat and for some of those other sessions. So it'll be, across the three of us. If you're not working with me and working with Michael or Taiga, for example, then they'll be able to help on that too.
Exactly. Yeah. So we hope that it will not only improve the quality, but also the efficiency of these sessions. So let's make a stop here. And I need one volunteer who's going to share his screen and see how the onboarding works with the sign up. And it has to be one of you guys who are members, not one of the founders, because we already saw that with Taiga, we didn't add him as a member. So we need one of you members to volunteer.
And is this if it's someone that has not yet created an account, or
exactly? I want to because I couldn't test it properly. I need one of you guys, because we implemented this yesterday and we put it to production today. I want to make sure that the sign up process goes smoothly and that you can opt in to share your information or opt out. Right, both is possible.
Sounds good, because I know a few people. I think Ileana already has an account. Sandeep already does. I don't know whether Colleen or Amelia. Perfect. Yeah. Or Hader.
Amelia, thank you.
Amelia, please. That'd be great. And then do we want to have
and I'll get over there.
Perfect. So then, yeah, Chris, do you want to give her the exact link? And then Amelia, if you wouldn't mind, do you want to share your screen?
Yes.
And then that way we can go through it live.
Is that where you want me to be?
Solvee. Yes, you can go to get free access.
Okay, give me one sec. Get free access. Okay.
And then sign up. Go into the sign up. No, further down, you can go sign up process. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
And I just make my own password?
Just make your own password. Yeah.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, everyone here, when you go to create your account, if you don't have one yet, as long as you use the same email that you had for Gildre, then it'll kind of mirror. And then if you want, Amelia, you're welcome to unshare just in case like the password shows up.
Yeah, maybe that.
I just used the Google one. Do I need to use the Gildre one?
No. Because you signed
whatever
Gildre with the Amelia Nosy, then you're good. Then that's fine.
Okay, great.
Feel free to change the password afterwards. So two-factor authentication is also on the backlog. So, but nevertheless, Amelia, don't forget to change the password afterwards. Okay. So yeah, just fill out first name, last name. I also will mention the bug that we have right now.
And for everyone else too that doesn't already have an account set up, you're more than welcome to also follow along and do this yourself if you want. Obviously, you can kind of see from Amelia's side of it, but yeah, you can also go in and do it your own here too, so you can follow along if you'd like.
So this, just so you know, you can fill it out. We will connect it later. Right now, the connection between the onboarding and the app itself is not working properly, but we just go through it and the fix is currently underway.
And then Colleen, I just put in the chat so you can access the link that way. And so the idea here is too, and Chris, maybe you could say like, we'll do, I don't know how long it takes to go through each of these processes, but like the idea is like when you put in for these optional pieces, a lot of it can be, whether it's from your website or how you'll answer a lot of these questions by going through the modules. Would it make sense to just kind of continue through this and then open up the platform, or how much time do you want to spend on this specific onboarding piece?
You can just click your way through if you want. Like I mentioned right now, because the connection is not really there, just feel free to go through it quickly. I just want everybody to see, and I want to make sure that when you go on the app, that you get the pop-up with the opt-in or not. I want to make sure that works fine. But I also want to see if the subscription is correctly assigned.
And so for everyone else too, as you go through this and click through it on your own, as Chris said, right? Click through it. Once you open the dashboard, which we'll see here, there's 2 steps left. Then you'll be able to kind of re-answer or go through the phases and be able to answer. And it's going to generate all of that specifically for your company and those steps. And for us, it's a good way of like a deep thinking reassessment. I think for even us at Gildre, so much of our days are just constantly, working and talking to people, working through workshops, getting speakers, in-person events, everything else. And you all feel this in the day-to-day we do with our businesses. So being able to kind of take even an hour or just step back and, all right, really, what are my priorities? How does that align with my North Star personally and professionally? This has kind of been a big like reset help with us. So
perfect. Okay. So here it's up to you, Amelia. You can perfectly not share and you can change your mind later. So this is not the one-time option. So it's up to you to choose either way, and then whatever you want to do. Perfect. And now you can, if you see on the bottom left side, there's the partner sharing right? So whenever you change your mind and want to share your information with the Gildre platform for your mentor, there you can click on it. Yeah. And then you can decide to, or you will continue with no, I don't share.
Another thing, I think the idea is like we want to replace our progress pulse forms using Solvee. So when we're doing our monthly reviews or our quarterly reviews and seeing kind of the gap that we fill, we can use that data to better fit what gaps we see we can fill.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So before anything, can you go on account settings, please, on the bottom left as well? And there, yes, perfect. Gildre Silver, right? That's the current plan. Is that correct, Amelia? Yes. Okay, great. So there you go, right? Normally, if you are a normal user and you sign up to Solvee, you would here be able to change your plan. Let's say, Amelia, you decide to upgrade to Gold for whatever reason. Might be because you want to have more access to Solvee or because you want to get all the benefits from Gildre Gold. Either way, you will be upgraded here automatically. That means you change to Gold and you change within the Gildre platform to Gold. You don't have to go and look for upgrading within Solvee. Because you get a Gildre Gold has more benefits than if you just upgrade to the paid version of Solvee. Okay. Good. Once we have that out of the way, you can go to home and there it says, what is your most important task right now, which is to complete the business assessment. And that's where I would like everyone to take, whoever has worked through in parallel to the onboarding process, just spend 5 minutes, that because you're running a little bit out of time, 5 minutes or whatever. I think, Brian, I don't know if we can extend over, probably not. So 5 minutes to complete the business assessment. You probably will not be able to complete it, but just, Amelia, if you want, you can just share with us your thoughts, or you can.
So basically, the goal here too is you can kind of see maybe we just take it a few steps to kind of look at when you click in the actual progress or into the phase, if you will, you'll see it's going to prompt you with specific questions. And the idea is it helps build the baseline. A lot of it's stuff you might know, but we've seen this work with, again, founders at $1 million plus in ARR to pre-revenue founders to first 10 customers. And so the information here that you share directly with Solvee, whether you choose to share it with us or not, will help build that profile and that baseline. So that way, at some point, when you go back, you can see there was a way to talk to your strategic advisor, things like that. Those are the things that, we were able to upgrade through our partnerships. And normally on the free tier with Solvee, people don't get access to that, but that is a part of it now. And so you'll see speaking with your strategic advisor will be based on the foundation assessment and things that get put in here. So ideally, once you do it once, it kind of sets that stage. And then of course, as your business grows, as you make pivots or your ICP changes, product changes, whatever that is, that's going to go ahead and update that for you on that end. So ideally, once you answer it the first time, it kind of sets that stage. And if things change, you can always go back to it after.
Exactly. So this is not trivial, and we are working that because as you make progress through the journey, making a change of your ICP will have a ripple effect on everything you have made progress so far. So this is not just changing your ICP and that's it. If you change your ICP, you will probably have to change your positioning, messaging, maybe your branding. And so we need to analyze what is the ripple effect of such a change. And then we will help you change that step by step, right? So that is also something that we will provide that is very difficult to do otherwise. If you need to do this by hand, and believe me, I have tried, it's a lot. It is extremely painful to keep your business synchronized once you change or you make a pivot.
And so maybe, Chris, if you don't mind, Amelia too, if you don't mind hitting back, we kind of just want to show at least the very top line. We know we've got about 5 minutes left here, and then we just want to leave some time for just general questions or next steps and things to maximize. Chris, are there any other major call outs, for example, the strategic advisor or business gaps, things like that are obviously people kind of know the phase at this point. How can they use some of these other tools?
Yes, perfect. Let me then take over for a second, because I think it's worth looking into my version, because I have more access as an admin, and it coming probably tomorrow where a few of these things will be unlocked. So let me have a look. So I have reset my whole progress as well. I always have to reset it on my accounts to make sure that everything works fine as a tester. So what you see here is everything unlocked at the moment. And here you already saw the homepage where we guide you to the first most important step. And the other options right now. This landing page will change very soon because we have come up with a much better approach based on the feedback we have received from Gildre members. And so here in the journey, you can have a complete overview of what you're going to be working on, right? So your business assessment. Okay, so this is you are going to know it's a gap, but normally you just need to start a complete business assessment, right? So you work on your business assessment, and this is first step. We just want to set a baseline of what do you know about your business, and then we identify your gaps. And with gaps, I mean you might think you have a perfect overview of your ICP, but maybe we find a couple of things that you could improve on. So let me start with this segment because we were showing it earlier. So for example, when your solution, so we have split the business assessment into multiple pillars. And the first is the customer pillar. The second one is the solution. Here, I will get questions to answer these questions that you can see here. I'm going to zoom in. Hopefully you can see it. So solution problem fit. How is it different from other solutions? Have you validated that the solution actually works? Is there a revenue model behind it? And how strong is your value proposition? So we will ask you questions to check these things off. And if there's something where you maybe don't know, you didn't think about, or your answer is a little vague, we will check it as a gap, and you will be able to work on those gaps later on. So that's why it's an assessment. It's just to set the baseline about your business so that Solvee at least has something to work on after your business assessment. So what you will see afterwards is the next step, right? So once you completed that, you will have access to what we say is generate the customer profile. And we will help you in a similar conversation with Solvee to just go step by step and we do similar check marks in the background, and you will see them as well on the right side. What are the points that we want to check off? And if we find anything that is either vague or incomplete, we will again mark that as a mistake. And so you can find all your business gaps at the moment here. This is currently not how it's supposed to be. You will only see the gaps that we identify as we progress through the journey. Right now, we just have the whole backlog, right? Everything that Solvee doesn't know about my business is going to show us as a gap. But this is a very nice example of a worst case scenario, right? You finish the business assessment, there are black complete gaps everywhere. And what you will see here is that Solvee will help you in a conversation to continue this gap in a conversation specifically to close the gap. So it will know this is the gap I'm having, and I'm going to help you close this gap. Any questions here? The good thing about closing the gap is that once you go to the strategic advisor and you ask him anything, right? For example, should I raise prices? Then it will pull the context and the gaps that it has to answer this question properly. And then it will tell you, okay, I don't have this certain information. It would be better. So, and we will improve this in the future with a confidence meter, where you will see how confident is Solvee in order to give you a proper advice. So this way you can see how valuable it will be to close the gap. Because if you close the gap, maybe the confidence meter goes from 50 to 75%, right? And then that gives you hopefully the motivation to work on your business foundation, because that will help Solvee to give you better advice.
And so with this, the idea is that, again, every starting with Solvee, right? Business advisors include a strategic advisor in that plan. The more, like, you can chat with it now, but the more information you put in your phases, as Chris said, right, the more relevant and the data will actually be. Because once you go through the phases, it's going to generate guides and blueprints and playbooks based on the information you gave, and that will be able to be updated with the strategic advisor. So think of it as it's going to be able to generate these things, which of course you can chat with the advisor, and then you can share with myself, Tyga, Michael, Eliana, as we have those conversations. And ideally, with other members that also are building in similar stages or seeing similar bottlenecks. So it's all yours. That's kind of help there. Again, Chris, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you can either download it, right, or you can use it to then feed into other things if you want. But the idea is that all of those phases set the baseline for all these other tools like the financial projections, runway, all of that good stuff.
Exactly. So the financial projections, this is just a demo how it looks like. There's better ones. Maybe I can even share it. Give me a second. Sorry. It doesn't matter. I just don't want to waste much time. So what we will be able to do is, if you connect QuickBooks or whatever app you're using currently to check your bank statements, You can connect it here. And the good thing is that Solvee, with like a proper human being, would look at the numbers, would look at the business and say, we have a problem and let's work on this problem, right? And it will help you fix that financial problem that you have. Maybe you are losing customers. Right? You lost 10 customers over the last 2 weeks, right? It will identify if you connect Stripe, that will be possible, or whatever app you're using for that. Okay, you're having a higher than normal churn. Let's work on that. Or your MRR is going down week after week, or your LTV is going down. So you need to make that is something that you might miss on a daily basis. That Solvee will look at the numbers of your financials and will spot that immediately and help you fix it.
Perfect. Okay. I know, and then feel free to touch on maybe one more thing, and then I want to make sure we've got 5 minutes left, so just to have time for any final questions. But Christoph, you feel free to close out any last point, or I think that would be helpful.
No, I think the most important part, we need to check that I didn't miss anything from the slides. Yeah, we want to go to business live. Turn that we can have the time. Yeah. So my request would be for everybody who is now here, I'm offering a session with you, 30 minutes, whenever you want. It can be next week, it can be in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, whenever you want. Send me a message or an email, and I'm super happy to sit down with you, help you wherever you want. And if you have any feedback, I would love it. Right. So this is now, as you can see, this is by far not the finished product. We are just gathering as much feedback as we want. So tell me everything that you think is not working. And if you find a bug, please let me know as soon as possible. Don't give up on us. This product is going to help you for sure. You just need to have a little bit of your time to give us feedback. And I'm sure we will be able to return that favor. Okay, that's it. I think maybe, Tiger, you want to mention the monthly huddle?
Yeah, just, if any questions pop up, since this is a partnership on progress and we want to make sure that everyone can maximize Solvee as much as possible, we'll be adding Christoph as leading a Solvee monthly huddle. So you can maximize Solvee. You can go in, ask any questions, and this will ultimately, make your day more productive and make your business go from point A to point B a lot faster and more effectively and efficiently.
Perfect. Michael, I think you have a question?
No, not a question. I just want to say, for all the people who showed up, kudos to you. That's what the community is about. We'll keep bringing you all these great things. Never in my life 3 years ago could I have thought we were here with all this offering and everything for what I consider the price of a beer or a drink or something like that. We have more coming. Free banking, don't tell anybody, coming from a big banking partner. It's coming soon. So free banking here for everyone and other things. Keep giving us your feedback. Love Solvee, love the offering, and thank you for all showing up.
Yeah. And so that being said, any last final questions on the offering? If you don't, again, you can message Christoph obviously directly in Circle. We'll also make like a little just kind of post about it on again, if you have questions on your account, how it's synced up, let us know. But, thank you, Amelia, for testing, because I think it, worked well in terms of all of that. And I'm learning a lot more about Zapier and how to wire everything up on our end. So, but yeah, again, this is a super exciting thing for us. As Michael said, more to come. And it comes down to everything. The last message I'll leave is for everyone here, I think we've all had the chance to speak with. The biggest thing for us at Gildre, when we compare it to a lot of other accelerators and incubators and communities out there, it's always down to time for everything. And I think everyone here feels the same way. There are millions of things that you probably could be doing related to your business, to your personal. My wife and daughter are swimming in a pool at our friend's place right now. And, and I told them, right, maybe half and half, but I didn't want to be anywhere else than here. And the thing is, there's so many things we can be doing. It really just takes an hour a week, 15 minutes a week sometimes to do different things to build in those habits, right? And to kind of give that reset. So carve out as much time as you can, at least initially, to set this baseline. And it inevitably helps, obviously, whether you're faced with fundraising or go-to-market or customer acquisition, whatever those immediate hurdles are, that's what we're here to address. So again, thank you all for that. The recording will be shared out. And then any questions, reach out to us or Chris, and excited to build this together.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, happy Thursday. Enjoy the rest of the weeks. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you, Christoph.
Thank you all.
Bye.